And welcome back. The other day I was at the Fuji X roadshow in Catania, which was, I guess, the first one in Italy, and I got to try a lot of stuff that I was interested in, mainly the X-H2, the 18 to 120, and the 56 1.2, the new version. Of course, I also got to try the 150 to 600, the GFX system, and a lot of stuff. It was an exciting moment, and I want to thank Fujifilm for giving us, at least in Italy, that opportunity. But today you're here to talk about mainly my first impressions about this new baby over here, which is basically the X-H2. As you can see, the only difference you can spot is probably the lack of an S on the back and here in the front of the camera. Other than that, the cameras are perfectly equal, and it makes sense. And the reason why I purchased the X-H2, I purchased the 18 to 120, and I purchased the 56 1.2. I'll tell you why in a moment. So the reason why I purchased the X-H2, I mentioned already in my previous videos. I was debating with myself whether I should keep the X-T4 or upgrade to the X-H2, and between the fact that I'm curious about trying the new 40 megapixel sensor and the fact that the control layout is completely different and we're getting into the body of this camera. If you haven't seen my first impressions on the X-H2S, go have a look at them over here. I discuss a lot on the body. This is the same, so there's no point in repeating myself. But mainly, the body is completely different to what we were used to in Fujifilm. So I decided to buy the X-H2 because I didn't want to have two completely different camera control layout, especially when I'm working on a pretty quick environment. So I decided to double down on the X-H2, take on the X-H2S and then the X-H2, and I will sell my X-T4. Not because I don't like it, I still like it, but it was a matter of convenience. Now, what are my first thoughts about this camera? I was curious, of course, about two things: the resolution and the high ISO, how it behaves in high ISO. I'm not so curious about 8K as much as I wasn't curious with the 6K and the X-H2, because I'm not going to use those that much. So let's start from the resolution. The resolution is incredible. 40 megapixel, it's something we've never heard of in an APS-C camera, and it's a new record, the Fujifilm set. And there's two things to mention. One is, it's great when you nail everything. The resolution is mind-blowing. You're seeing a couple of pictures right now. At the same time, being so dense, if you mess something up, whether it's micro jitters, micro movements for some motion blur, or you miss focus, you will immediately realize that. You're seeing right now where I just missed the focus on the eye and focused on the lips of the model. You can immediately tell a lot more than you would on a lower resolution sensor. So it's great, but it's unforgiving when it comes to mistakes, which is something you should probably expect. Same thing goes for ISO. The camera seems to me, I will further investigate in my full review, but it seems to me that the camera is fully capable of shooting great stills up until 1600 ISO, maybe a little bit more, but come 3200, you can tell that the quality starts to drop. And now, is it bad? No, it's not. The noise pattern is not that bad. But at the same time, I would say that the X-H2S in this regard has a slight advantage. And this is something you could expect. I mean, it's a lower megapixel sensor. You would expect for it to be a little bit better at the high ISO. So those two things needs to be taken into consideration when you're buying this camera. And as it looks like we're going to get the same sensor in the future cameras such as the X-T5 and other cameras. For this applies to all the cameras that are going to come with the same sensor. Now, all the rest, Fujifilm told us that this new sensor having more megapixels, has a more phase detection autofocus point, and so it should be a little bit more precise. It is hard to tell. It is hard to test it. In my opinion, the autofocus precision is similar to that of the X-H2S, maybe a little bit better, but I've tested it in different environments, so I don't want to speak for it. But I could definitely tell that for fast-moving subject, the X-H2S is more snappier in acquiring the focus and keeping the focusing. Not saying the X-H2 is bad, and I will further test it, of course. I'm only saying that the X-H2S with its stacked sensor shows that it can keep track a little bit better. The faster readout, the additional cycles of reading the sensor really help when it comes to tracking subjects. Of course, again, I will further investigate, but Fujifilm basically told us already all of that. I'm only confirming that what they said is pretty much true. I tested the rolling shutter because when I was testing the camera, in the viewfinder, it seemed like the rolling shutter was really, really bad. And so I wanted to test it against the X-H2S, which we know has almost non-existent rolling shutter in similar condition. You're seeing this as in right now. At the end of the day, the 4K high quality shows a more pronounced rolling shutter compared to that of the X-H2S, but it's not bad. I mean, it definitely shows, but it's not something that you would call bad. And if you bring it down to 4K, not the H quality, but the normal quality, that is almost gone away compared to the X-H2S, which is still better, don't get me wrong, but the difference is not as visible as I would have thought, which is good for the X-H2. It means that the sensor is not bad even for that. People started saying that during testing the camera, oh, this competes with the GFX. You have so much resolution, you may get away without using the GFX system. It's not true. We're talking about two completely different systems. The GFX, I'm showing you a picture right now with the 110 f2, is a marvelous lens, is a marvelous combination, and the X-H2 cannot keep up with that. There's no way it can. But if you need resolution and you have a lot of storage, because we also need to take that into consideration, the X-H2 is a great camera. For me, I would say that the more flexible camera of the two is still the X-H2S, which is something that probably not many would think right now. But I guess I don't need the 40 megapixel for what I do, and I think many people don't need those. And so the 26 megapixel gives you less storage needed, less problems with high noise, with high ISO, less rolling shutter because it's a stacked sensor. So to me, the more versatile of them all is the X-H2S. The X-H2 seems still to be a great camera, but it's more for, to me, it's more for studio work if you don't want to invest too much in a GFX system. This does great. You saw the picture with the model. So to me, if you're in doubt, probably the X-H2S is better. If you know you don't need what the X-H2S gives you in addition, you can definitely go with the X-H2 with no problems. Now let's talk about the lenses. Let's start with this 18 to 120. It is something we needed. It's a video focused lens that is super lightweight for the size and what it is. It's super lightweight. I did not expect it. It seems it's plasticky. Okay, it's mainly plastic, but this helps keeping the weight down, and it seems like the image quality is great. I will further test because it seems to me that in the corner it does some corrections while you record, which is something that I don't like. Although it seems that zooming very slowly, which is something you can do now with this ring over here, or this, or even the buttons on the side of the lens. If you do it slowly, it doesn't show that much. If you zoom very, very strongly, very quickly, it'll show a lot more. So it seems that image quality is really good, even for pictures, but I will need to test this lens a lot more. I will share a video on this lens specifically in a bit. But as of now, I am fairly impressed with the lens. And then mounted on my X-T4, you're seeing the 56 1.2, which, as you can probably tell, grew a little bit fatter. It's a lot fatter. The lens diameter is bigger. The overall lens is bigger, but I could test it with the model, and the results it produces are mind-blowing. The sharpness is incredible. The bokeh is really smooth. You can tell that instead of 7 diaphragm blades, now it has 11. And even the autofocus, although not linear motor, it's an older version of the autofocus, it's not noisy at all, and it's very precise. It's not super fast, but I could keep up with the model in a video, so I think it's usable to some extent. Again, stay tuned, because I'm gonna further investigate on this lens a lot, because it seems to be a little bit of a masterpiece, like all the new lenses, the 33, the 18 and 23. And so I'm very impressed, at least from those few shots that I could take. One thing that is really important looking forward to what is going to happen with Fuji is that I tested the X-H2 in a street photography environment, which is not necessarily what it was born for, but I was there, I was trying, and I decided to give it a chance. And having this kind of super fast autofocus that latches on the faces of people and eyes of people very quickly makes me think that whenever all of this is going to be translated down or sideways to an X Pro 4, X-T5, or even better, an X-E5, we are going to have probably a dream of a street photography camera, because that is going to change dramatically how we shoot in the streets. We can definitely shoot no look if we don't want to be caught shooting, and the camera is going to be pretty reliable in focusing on the faces. And so I really look forward to see what this new generation of camera is going to bring for us, because it seems that the future is bright. Now, if you made it this far, thank you. I will ask you to subscribe if you don't want to lose the review and first impressions on everything. It'll also help my channel to grow, and it's something that I need. I'm putting a lot of effort in this channel. I repeat that every time. For you, subscribing is free. Leave me a thumbs up is free as well. Please do it. I would appreciate it a lot. I think for today I've told you even too much. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.